brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? 'Cause that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds, suds, suds. It's time for more suds.
Welcome to another Sud segment with good old boy Mike. Today we're going to be exploring end of the year beers, and with me I have my co-host, our good old boy Dave.
Hello, sir.
And good old gal Julieanna.
Hi.
And good old boy John.
Hello, everyone.
And this segment, we have some very interesting beers to discuss, as well as I think just the general seasonality of beers and availability of a lot of the beers that we have in front of us. Today, our Suds ratings are 1, that sucks, give me anything but a bud. 2, was that a belch? 3, what a relief. 4, a body should really not make that sound. And 5, listen to that hang time. Give me a bump. So those are our Suds ratings here on Sip, Suds, and Smokes for Suds. Today we are tasting 5 beers that are kind of considered end of the year seasonals. We have Nice Le Chouffe, or Chouffe, I'm sorry, Nice Chouffe, Golden Carolus Noël, Sierra Nevada's Bigfoot Ale 2013, Grand Cru Dark Ale from Green Flash, and a very special tasting of Westvleteren XII. Please hold your applause down to a deaf noise. And my co-hosts are just in dead awe that I actually broke out a bottle of this. So I want to thank all of you that have enjoyed our free beer contest and giving away a pack of Westvleteren XII. And thank you for listening. And today we'll actually have a chance to review this beer with you here on this episode. Very interesting beers for this setup. And I think one of the topics that I always enjoy is, end of the year beers are very difficult sometimes to find in terms of availability. And I guess one of the topics that I wanted to discuss here is that you do not have to think that seasonal beers always have to be consumed within the season that they are meant to be brewed in. I know that for many of us, thinking about having a spiced, hopped up monster in June is just like a sacrilege moment. But I think that these beers that we're discussing today don't have the element of seasonality and can be enjoyed no matter what the season are that you are currently looking at them. So the part of what's very difficult with seasonal beers is the way that distribution works with both international beers as well as domestic U.S. beers. And inevitably what happens is that you end up with this crescendo of a lot of beer in a very short period of time. And you don't have the ability, 1, to enjoy it, or B, you can afford it all. Through some of the distribution models of some of these products, you don't actually see them in the market until well after, 2 months after they've been released. So I'm curious how the three of you kind of navigate, seasonality, especially with these end of the year beers. Not these beers in particular, but as you think about those kind of end of the year beers, I mean, is there some that you're like, wow, I would enjoy this in February? How about it, Dave?
Well, I think you have to look at each beer individually, and do a little research. If a beer projects itself as a holiday beer, then you kind of know what it is. But if a beer just happens to come out at the end of the year, then you really want to look at the brewery and the type of beer to make sure it's the kind of beer you're going to want to drink.
Well, and I think that brewers tend to pull out all the stops in terms of both ingredients, the element of craft that they tend to put into some of these beers as well. And I think to me, it's no different than looking at a painting. To say, wow, you put a lot of time and love and a lot of heart, into crafting that art. And, to just walk by it and say, that was pretty good for 30 days.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
If I was at Christmas, that'd be a pretty good painting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. But
I just think it's the ultimate jack slap, though.
Yeah,
exactly. I think
exactly.
to the artist, at the helm of this. Julieanna, what do you think?
If it's a beer that you like, and I look forward to this time of year where it's a darker, more flavorful beers. Not saying that summer hoppy beers aren't flavorful.
She was pointing to John.
Exactly. There's a very dirty look.
Yeah. But, this is now February, and we're enjoying these. And I could see myself enjoying this in March and even April. Maybe not in the dead heat of August, but, given the right circumstance...
No, some of these I would have in August.
Well, yeah, the one that's now empty.
Oh,
but in the scheme of things, you don't have to categorize something just solely on the season that it comes out as.
I totally agree. I don't really drink beer by the season. I drink beer by what I feel like drinking at the time. It doesn't make any difference to me whether it's August or it's January. If I feel like having a stout, I want a stout. I don't really care if it's 100 degrees outside. That's not what I'm going for. I can make it 65 degrees in my house. I can just chill it down in the house if I need it to be cooler when I'm drinking. So yeah, as far as end of the year beers go, the way I navigate the whole process is I try to be selective. I try to grab beers that I've never had before or I've heard buzz about, if you can get your hands on them.
Or I would go so far to say that you and I share some kindred spirit that less spice is more spice.
I totally agree. I think there's a way to get spice without putting spice in a beer. That's the way I look at it.
A cinnamon stick up my left nostril. I don't need that. Thank you very much.
Exactly, and I'm not a huge ager of beers, but I will buy beer with the sole purpose of drinking it later.
You seriously said the word age in beer in front of me.
Oh my God, he just talked
God.
about that. Oh,
just a sacrilege moment.
I did.
Right.
I don't necessarily buy beer to drink it immediately all the time. I will buy beer. I have you have a wine cellar. I have a beer cellar, and I put a lot of beer away, and I don't leave it for long periods of time. But I like to let it kind of settle and age. Beers that have traditionally been better with a little bit of age on them.
That's a good point, John. Too, is that beers that are, of a certain ABV or gravity need to be aged. Because they almost become like wines.
I agree.
Scotch ales.
There's a measure of bottle conditioning that actually enhances a lot of the quality of many of the beers that we're sampling here tonight.
Yeah.
But I think of high gravity beers certainly can, I think, improve with a little bit additional bottle conditioning.
Right.
That's not to say that I have to dump them out, throw them in a bourbon barrel, and declare victory that I've
Sure.
inserted, flavor by some other infusion. But there is a method to the component of bottle conditioning that I do think enhances the quality of some of these.
Well, and I wouldn't want to step on any toes here in the place, but
he's not saying the word aged beer. That's what he's saying.
But there are certain people who would say that beer is actually more complex than wine. Because we know what wine is going to be in certain varieties, but beer has a lot more variation to it. And when you put it at a certain strength, as they say, that when you give it time, it will really become what it's going to be.
Good old boy Dave is watching me swoon.
I know.
Moments of every landmine that he stepped
Yours
on,
were the toes I didn't want to
like,
step
oh
on.
my God, why did it? Okay, all right.
How did I get this guy into my house?
What am I doing? Well, it's a very interesting topic, and I'm glad that we've had a chance to sample these 5 beers tonight. I am so excited that we get to talk about these beers, in this segment. If they have drifted by, your retailer, you should just definitely take a moment to try these. We'll share our tasting notes with you through this segment, but there are certainly other end of the year seasonals that we're not talking about in this segment, and I think hold some of the same characteristics of some of what we're going through tonight. So, what do we have in the lineup? It is. Did I go through the lineup?
No.
I did. I went through one, which I think I just went through one, which was Nice Le Chouffe, or Nice Chouffe, Golden Carolus Noël, Bigfoot Ale 2013, Green Flash, Grand Cru, and Westvleteren XII. Yes, I remember. Everybody stood up and applauded last time I said that, so I still hear the applause. All right, so first up is Nice Le Chouffe, or Chouffe, I'm sorry, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, so those of you that know how to say it correctly, please drop me a line to subsudsandSmokes@gmail.com and just insult me and say, please shut up, you redneck geek. All right, this is a very interesting beer, great end-of-the-year beer. They produce this every year, and it's slightly different every single year. I would just, their description on the label is that it is an ale brewed with spices, thyme, and curacao peel. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is. I've been to that island, that part of the world, but I'm not quite sure exactly what fruit or spice they're referring to, possibly just cocoa peel. But I would describe this beer as rich, dark, complex, slightly sweet, would be some of the characteristics I would use to describe this beer. I would have this anytime. March, April, May, August, November, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Fridays. Any of those days work for me. So my suds rating for this is 4. A body should really not make that sound. Great beer, wonderful choice. I always come back to it every year, and this year has been no different. Good old boy Dave, what do you think about Nice Chouffe?
Well, I found it to be a very complex and malty beer, with good notes in the nose and in the flavor. And I don't know that I would have it all the time, just because it's so complex and so beautiful. But I think it could be a special occasion beer for anyone who enjoys really good beers. And I would definitely give it a 4.
Oh, a 4. A body should really not make that sound. Cool. Excellent. Good old gal, Julieanna, what do you think about Nice Chouffe?
I really enjoyed this one. In the sense of, I almost got this vinegariness of like a Rodenbach with it, which blew me away because I was expecting all the spiciness, and that traditional heavy, complex flavors.
John was.
Of course he was. Yes.
He'd already discarded it when he saw
He
the
is
word
a
spice on
closet
the label.
spice lover.
Not hopped up.
But the little, subtle vinegariness of it just really opened it up to me. And it's a beautiful, beautiful beer.
It is.
Beautiful beer.
So what is your suds rating for this?
I'm in the 5.
5. Listen to that hang time. Give me another. Wow. Okay. Good old boy John, what did you think of Nice Chouffe?
It's a really interesting beer. I think complex is the word that I keep kind of coming to. There's so much going on in this beer that there's dark fruit notes, there's that herbal component, and I think the vinegar that that Julieanna kept noting, I get more like a sherry alcohol note
Ooh,
to it.
that's a very good pickup. I missed that, and you're right on.
Yeah.
I agree. For those people who have not had sherry, I agree. That's a very good description.
Yeah,
right there.
it gets, and like I said, it's something you don't get in a lot of beers. But when I taste it, I kind of am able to really pick it out. So I liked it. It's not a beer I would drink all the time. I think it's a little bit, it's a little heavy for me to have year round. But
once a
but
month
I
or
liked
once
it.
a quarter.
Once a month, once a quarter would be fine. Sure. But my suds rating was a 3.
A 3. Ah, what a relief. All right, so John's no longer admitted to the country of Belgium. That's all right. Our next beer up is Golden Carolus Noël. Very interesting end-of-the-year beer. And this is one of those end-of-the-year beers that I find really changes dramatically from one year to the next.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember there are a couple of other Golden Carolus that I routinely buy and or have sent to me that I've really enjoyed. And one is the Cuvée de Kaiser, which is the King's beer. It's a reserve that they produce every year, and it's probably one of my top picks, of really fabulous beers in terms of seasonal beers that are made. This is not a tough step from the beer of the Kaiser or the beer of the King that is made by Golden Carolus, and this is probably one of the better years that I've enjoyed the Golden Carolus Noël. My tasting notes for this are that I thought that it was honey sweet, dark, and just kind of a hint of spice. And I couldn't really put my finger on what spice, that was really there. I don't know, it was like cardamom or something that just, was one of those spices that really pissed John off. I'm sorry. That I think that definitely takes your palate and goes, that normally is not here, but I really like it right now. So my suds rating for Golden Carolus Noël is 4. A body should really not miss out. Good old boy Dave, what do you think about Golden Carolus Noël?
Well, I think I've identified the spice that you weren't sure about.
There you go.
And it's either star anise or you might want to call it licorice.
Oh, okay. So it's either anise or aniseed or one of those.
And I do not like star anise.
You do not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Jaeger. I don't like licorice. But
all right, so good old boy Dave does not know that I have almost a 200-year recipe for Christmas cookies that include the inclusion of aniseed in them.
Well, I have a package of
renowned.
Aniseed at my house that you can have.
I know. There you go. You can have it. So you are cut off from the Christmas cookie list.
I'm off the Christmas cookie list.
I'm not going to send that to you, but there are other people that don't enjoy that spice.
But if I did, could finish, what I was going to say is actually this beer is drinkable, even though I'm not a big fan of licorice.
Huh.
The complexity, the smoothness of it, it really makes it okay, And even though I'm not a big fan of that flavor, I do think that this is a good conduit for it. So I would give it a 3.
A 3. Ah, what a relief. Okay. Good old gal Julieanna, what do you think about Golden Carolus Noël?
This is a really special beer. I mean, to me, it really is. It's
special to celebrate without Dave.
Yeah, from the sounds of things,
or special
definitely.
as in Olympics.
Wow. I love the licorice in it. It's not overwhelming, or I guess it should be called star anise. I love that flavor though, and to me that's what Christmas tends to be all about. It's not just about the cinnamon and maple flavors. It's about these like sort of interesting mixes, and I get the honey that sort of coats over the licorice before I get to this like Belgian candy flavor, which is just really neat.
Yeah, and I like that description. That's pretty good and accurate.
It's a really neat beer. It's a gorgeous color. I mean, that's a beautiful dark brown. Just stunning. Now, would I have this all year round? No. But I definitely, through the winter months and fall months, I could definitely fall into winter and then winter in the spring. I could definitely enjoy this. Yeah, for like 6 months out of the year. A wonderful beer.
Good old boy John, what did you think about Golden Carolus Noel and all the spices?
All of the spices tended to overwhelm my palate, to be quite honest.
Oh my God!
Go figure.
It's like a giant go figure. There we go. Oh my God! Do you want me to do your suds rating for you?
I am slightly predictable, but much like Dave, I am not a fan of licorice, and to me, this beer is overly sweet, and not balanced. There's a component missing to me.
Like a pound of Centennial hops.
Probably.
If you threw a pound of any hops in here,
Then you'd be happy.
I would be happy. But I think in general, it's just missing something. The sweetness is overwhelming to me, and then the licorice distracts for me. I did give it a 2 because I can.
Wow.
Was that a belt?
2.
That's nice.
Yeah, I was being generous, I think.
Never
Because,
be admitted to.
Well, he would like to go to Belgium,
Belgium.
someday.
yeah.
You'll be standing there in Germany just waving at the people across the border. We have
There
all
are
the
Belgian,
good beer over
there are
here.
Belgian styles I enjoy. This wasn't one of them.
So you'll be standing there with a Heineken in your hand going, what the hell happened? You know?
Licorice Suds, hey,
Yeah.
what up?
You can throw a good bottle across the border. All right.
Oh.
Keep your Jaeger. Yeah.
Well, that definitely brings us right about in full circle on this train ride to Belgium. So our next beer is a barley wine, Bigfoot Ale from Sierra Nevada. This is a end of the year seasonal that they make every year at Sierra Nevada, and they actually stamp this in some vintage form each year. I've really enjoyed Bigfoot for, I don't know, probably 10 years now. This was a very interesting year for Bigfoot. I would have to say it's probably at the top of my list of all the Bigfoot that has been made. In fact, I would actually go so far to say it's the best barley wine that I've had in a few years. It's very good. It's just everything you think about in a barley wine. It's just very complex. Has a lot of flavor to it. It's a great balance of hoppiness to it. And I just thought it was a terrific barley wine. My sud rating is 4. A body should really not make that sound. And I'm going to definitely toss this right back to the hop monster for John to talk about, to get him out of the doghouse and where he can freely move about some country, at least in the great state of California.
Exactly.
To say
Again, I'm being extremely predictable, but this is a really, really good beer.
You think?
Shocking.
This beer has more balance in it, and I think oddly enough, it would actually age pretty well. I think that the hops are right now it's drinking extremely well, but I think a year from now it would drink just as well. There's an alcohol warmth to this one that would probably fade a little in a year. And would mellow out and become much more drinkable even than it is now. Lots of dark fruit notes. Again, we're kind of getting that theme with a lot of these beers is the amount of dark fruit. But it's a very smooth beer for a barley wine, even this young. And I just loved it. So I give it a 4.
Wow. A body should really not make that sound. Well, thank you, John. Good old gal Julieanna, what do you think about Bigfoot?
It's very yummy. What I really was interested in, when I think of a barley wine, I think of like just huge flavors, and the toffee at the beginning was just right there in my face, and then I got some hoppiness, and then I got some like raisiny plumminess, and was impressed at how smooth each transition was. it's a very smooth beer for it being so complex. And yeah, I'd love to see what this is like in a year, because I can just imagine the flavors melding even that much more and being more intensified by then.
Have either of you had the barley wines in previous years, or the Bigfoot? I'm sorry.
I think I've had 2011s. I didn't get last year's.
So, do you recall any of the taste profiles of the previous years? That you remember.
I remember it being, for me, it seemed to be similar, but this one seems more like balanced all the way through out of the box.
That's it.
They tend to be very compartmental in years past. You'd get the malt, the hop, then the alcohol, and then it would go away.
Yep.
This to me is all in one box all at the same time.
I think that is a very accurate description. I think of most impressions of most barley wines that I've had is that it's like this assault on your palate. You know. And this seems to be far more balanced.
Yeah.
And somebody basically got the wake-up moment, or more importantly, the folks at Sierra Nevada finally figured out what was the missing moment. Either in the way that they were, the hops that they were using, or the mechanism they were using of combining these ingredients with temperature to say, this year I think we finally figured out what was the X factor, because this barley wine to me has whatever the X factor is. So,
yeah, it's not choppy like years of previous. Yeah. I mean, I've only been able to try out the 10 and 11, but this is just, this is smooth right from the get-go.
Julieanna, what's your suds rating for this?
This is a 4.
4. A body should really not make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what did you think about Sierra Nevada's Bigfoot Ale?
Well, I completely agree with everyone. The two words I had were hoppy and clean. The maltiness balanced with the hoppiness very well. And this is one of those beers I think you can buy a 6-pack. If you can find it, buy a 6-pack and drink one a year for the next 6 years.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Put them down in
I
your
would do that
cellar.
with the Westvleteren, probably first, but this would be a good second choice.
Because I think every year you're going to get something different, but I think it's going to be good every year. And I would definitely give this a suds rating of 4.
4. A body should really not make this. So. Well, thanks. Excellent discussion about that barley wine. And next up is Green Flash Grand Cru Dark Ale. Green Flash is a West Coast brewery in San Diego. We've reviewed a couple of products from them. I know one of the things that seems to wind up, in my fridge every week is their Friendship Ale, which I have no idea why, but I just keep on going back to it. It's just a really wonderful beer. This particular beer, Grand Cru, their dark ale, I don't know that they, I don't know if I would describe it as their crescendo moment at the end of the year. It seems like they have a lot of crescendo moments at Green Flash lately. A lot of great beer coming out of Green Flash. But this particular beer seemed to be right in the same style, the same beers that we're talking about, Belgian dark ale that they came out on the market at the same time. And I think a lot of the distinction of Grand Cru says I've pulled out all the stops to bring it home for you with this. And very interesting tasting alongside of these. And I don't think that I probably would have described this if I hadn't done it in a point of comparison with everything else in front of us today. So my tasting notes for Green Flash Grand Cru are, I think it's a deep, dark ale, 0 hops, and I just wrote down, really, this is West Coast, because I'm sorry, but I am really shocked that somebody on the West Coast would make a beer like this. And it just tells me that the folks at Green Flash just really enjoy making great beer and truly do not have to throw a ton of hops in to infuse flavor. And I think really paying attention to creating a rich, malty flavor dark ale. So my suds rating for this is a 4. A body should really not make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what do you think about Green Flash Dark Ale here?
Well, this is something that when I drink a Grand Cru, I think of maybe Chimay or Omegang or something, or Duvel, something like that. I don't really think of West Coast breweries doing a Grand Cru.
Yeah.
And this beer could be one of those. It could be from Belgium. It could be from Omegang. And it's deep and malty, and I can taste the yeastiness of it. It's very beautiful. I would definitely give this a 4.
A body should really not make that sound. Well, I think that that's very interesting, to recognize that, this is not what I would think from a West Coast brewer, in general. Good old girl, Julieanna, what do you think about Green Flash?
I totally agree. I was blown away. Like, when I think of Green Flash, I think of those IPAs, and I think of those hoppy beers, which is what California is known for.
Palate wrecker, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
Appropriately named.
But Palate Wrecker is awesome for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, totally. But this...
I've never heard a beer that's been more appropriately named.
Yeah, that's very good of them. But this, it was so neat. And I really did not... It reminds me of... when I went to Omegang and went to that brewery and had some of those like big fat Belgian beers. I just
Rare VOS.
Yeah.
Hangs with.
That's what it reminds me of totally. Yeah. And it impresses me that Green Flash can come out with something like this. But it's got it hits everywhere where it's supposed to. And it's very malty, and it's the malty flavors that I would want to have. So yes, I really dig this beer.
So what's your suds rating on the Green Flash Grand Cru?
I would be a 4.
A 4. A body should really not make that sound. Good old boy John, what did you think about Green Flash Grand Cru here?
As you can expect, I am a fan of Green Flash. They're a West Coast brewery that loves hops, that throws tons of hops and everything.
Please hire John now.
Yeah, I know, really.
And given that, I would be drawn to buy this beer, and I would be surprised when I drank it. And I am surprised now that I like it. It's a very balanced example of a Grand Cru. If you didn't tell me that this was a West Coast brewery, I would have no clue. I would assume it's a Rodenbach or a Chimay or another traditional example of a Grand Cru. This is another example of an innovative craft brewery who's stepping out of the box of what they have to do on the West Coast and doing something that's a little bit different, that they just want to push the limits and the boundaries of what they can do. And I think this beer is a great example of that. And for that reason, I gave it a 4.
A 4. A body should really not make that sound. Well, I think that's definitely one of the interesting beers to throw in the mix of things. We have truly gone from one side of the ocean to another, and looking at a lot of brewers' approach and saying, if I have to pull all the stops out, what am I going to do, man? At the end of the day. So I like to think that I wouldn't say it's their best foot forward, but I think that it's one of the more interesting moments of them stepping outside their wheelhouse and saying, you know what, I am a great brewer at the end of the day. I can bring it, man. I don't really care what you want to call it.
Well, plus, also, different strains of yeast are more available now, and different grains are available now. So they can be more experimental, and these guys, they all taste, like we're sitting around drinking all these great beers now. They all sit around.
We're drinking beers as we're talking about this?
No, don't talk about it.
We are.
Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Why the show's so great.
Yeah, that they all sit around and drink great beers too. Like, dude, what if we took what this brewer is doing and what this brewer is doing and put it with what we're doing? That's what we can make. So I think there's a lot of that going on too.
Well, I think that brings us to the crescendo moment
Yes.
of this discussion, which is Westvleteren XII, brewed by the monks. I can't even remember how I talked about that last time. So this is just,
Wow.
yeah, just want to stop and say, wow. So, for those of you that are not familiar with this beer, Trappist beers have been traditionally brewed within monasteries. The Westvleteren Ale is, I think, been elusive for the general public primarily because of availability,
Yes.
more than anything else. And I'm not a fan of reviewing products that are unobtainable, ever. What's the point?
And guess what? We're
I
drinking
had
this
it
and
and you
you'll
didn't.
never taste it.
I had the perfect wine. I had the perfect coffee. I had the perfect beer. And I think that part of what I wanted to explore in this discussion about Westvleteren is not just the review of the beer itself, but I'm really quite curious with each of you if you think that the point of supply and demand has influenced the way that you think about this beer itself. Because there's one thing to say somebody rated the beer or somebody else has tasted it, as it's approached the market and influenced to say it's something. And then now today you've tasted it and you just, did it hit the mark that you were thinking of, itself? So I recognize that a lot of you probably will not be able to enjoy this beer, and that's unfortunate. Part of it is just, the monasteries decided they have a certain measure of production they want to produce every year,
That's
and
some
that's
bills
it.
to pay.
And, from their perspective, it's like we're making the good stuff and cutting it off. So, so if you do happen to run across this, I would enjoy your thoughts about whether it fulfilled some of the elements of supply and demand and what you thought about it. Today, for our discussion, I definitely wanted to talk about what did you think about the beer, and if there was some hype, in your mind, what did it live up to? So my thoughts about Westvleteren 12 is I just thought that it was sweet Belgian darkness all the way. Great beer. And it's just I feel it's nice to be able to taste it, but my suds rating for this is actually a 4. The body should really not make that sound. So I've had some beers that I thought were a cut above this, but it's a really great beer, and I'm glad that we had a chance to taste it today. Good old boy Dave, what do you think about Westvleteren 12?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up that way about how does it make a beer more desirable if you can't get it, or like John has brought in some Russian River stuff that we can't get in Tennessee. There are a lot of things that we can't get in Tennessee. Like we used to be able to get Dogfish Head, but now we can't. In my travels, I go to Asheville or I go to Georgia, or we go to Bowling Green, Kentucky, or we go down to Huntsville, Alabama.
Beer capital of Middle Tennessee.
That's right. We go all around the state of Tennessee and we can get beers that you cannot get in this state. And all of them have, certain good qualities and bad qualities. But this beer is very good. But if someone is trying to sell it to you on eBay for $1,000 a bottle or something, don't buy it, because it's good, but it's not that good. I mean, it's a very good beer.
That would be me. Don't cancel your bid. Don't cancel your bid right
unless
now.
Unless
it's Mike.
Unless it's Mike at Sip Subs, don't buy it then. But what I'm saying is that there are a million really great beers in the world, but you're not going to be able to get all of them. And just because there's a beer that someone tells you you can't get doesn't mean that it's the greatest beer in the world. And I really don't think this one is. So I would give this one a 3.
A 3.
At best.
Ah, what a relief. Good old boy.
Do it. Say
Good
it.
old gal.
Go ahead and say
Julieanna,
it.
I am so sorry. What did you think of Westvleteren 12?
But I'm like one of the boys. There was a lot of hype surrounding this. You know, everyone kept saying that, oh my God, if you get a bottle of this, exactly. You know, the heavens open up and everything is crazy. And be that as it may, I did enjoy this like immensely. The flavor of it was consistent throughout. Was this something that I'm like, wow, I, will save thousands of dollars to have again? Probably not. However, I mean, I'm honored to be able to be here to try this for what it is. I'm very respectful of the monks that make this. I mean, this is a really good quality beer. Is it like the best of the best ever? No. But it is a really good sipping beer. And that's the key to me, is that this is a sipping beer.
Yeah, definitely not something that good old boy Jim talks about, lawnmower beer and something
no,
you throw back.
exactly.
Yeah, you don't
exactly.
want to drink 3 pints at a time, yeah.
No. But
Drink one, send me 2.
yeah, pretty much. But if anyone can, I mean, it is something to appreciate for what it is. It is a really good beer.
Good old boy John, what did you think of Westvleteren 12?
The first thing I wrote down was wow. It is a very, very good beer. And unlike Dave, don't cancel your bids. It is worth buying this beer if you can get a hold of it. I think supply and demand is a huge problem with this beer. I would love for it to have more availability, mostly because it wouldn't be priced in the manner that it is. But it's such a good beer for the style that it is. It is the best Belgian dark that I think I've ever had, and to me it's very balanced. The more I've sat here and sipped on it, the warmer it gets, the more the alcohol kind of balances the malt sweetness. There are no hops in this beer, or very little, is my guess.
If any, yeah.
But what's in there is there for a reason. There's a legitimate purpose for every piece and ingredient that's in this beer, and I respect the people who make it, the reason they make it, and I wish there was more of it. But it's a great beer. I gave it a 4.
A 4. A body should really not make that sound.
And again, I would, if you can find a bottle somewhere, buy this bottle. It's worth the drinking.
And if I may, one quick interesting note about this, what you had said before, it like opens up really as it warms. This really isn't the type of beer that I would have super cold.
Yeah.
No.
It just, I mean, the more, room temperature, it just really blooms.
Well, that's a test of a good beer.
And exactly
how it opens up as it warms. Yeah.
Always. Well, I think that is a common comment about all the beers that we've enjoyed in this segment of Sip Suds and Smokes. So, well, it's been a very interesting discussion once again, and we've really enjoyed the beers that we've shared with you today. Thank you for joining us on this segment of Sip Suds and Smokes. I'm good old boy Mike. Good old boy Dave.
Good old girl Julieanna.
And good old boy John.
We're going to ask you to keep on sipping. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip Suds and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.